WWE Clash of Champions Gold Rush 2020 is in the books. Results and review for you here on SCW. Thank you for choosing the channel and choosing the video. Please subscribe right now. Leave any comments in the comments section. Please like and share the video as well. Going to go through the match card now and give my overall score out of 10 at the end of the review. But like any good WWE show, let's start off with the kickoff, and it was made very clear that a couple of matches had been cancelled, that 3 superstars had not been medically cleared for the event this evening. So Nikki Cross was pulled from the event, so that match with Bayley was off, as well as the Women's Tag Team Championship match. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler were not cleared to take on the Right Squad, so that match was scrapped completely. Bayley would be featured later in the Clash of Champions show and was going to address the situation with Nikki Cross. Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura had an entertaining session in the Champions Lounge. They were confident of beating the Lucha House Party, and I don't think they were the only ones there sipping on the champagne. And Shinsuke Nakamura singing Simon & Garfunkel's Sound of Silence, and let me tell you, I could hear a lot more of that going forward. But the match had been moved to the kickoff as a result of the changes. The Raw Women's Championship match, which was originally scheduled for the kickoff, had been bumped up to the main show, which I think should have been anyway. The Raw Women's Championship is a World Championship. It should never be on the kickoff. You'd never see the WWE Championship or Universal Championship on the kickoff, so the Women's Championships shouldn't be either. MVP had a segment with Charlie Caruso, quite an interesting one this one. He said that the Hurt Business is a business model. There is a plan on why they offered to take care of Retribution. As for a plan in 6 months to a year from now, he hopes the group could continue to grow, so maybe more members could be on the way later on. And of course, they want gold. Of course, gold equals green, which is what he cares about. R-Truth was actually in the building as well, talking about Scareology in an entertaining fashion there, dressed up as well, and of course, it made you realise the 24/7 championship would be involved later in the evening. Sami Zayn is well unhappy. He's still not referred to as the IC champion. We learned that would be the match that would kick off the evening. But of course, we had our kickoff match, which was Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura against the Lucha House Party for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. Lucha House Party had Kalisto and Lindsay Dorado, which I thought was an interesting choice, since those two have not been getting along. Certainly teased the idea of the split happening on the night. That didn't happen in the end. We had a fast-paced match. We had a couple of nice little spots in this match as well. A suicide dive to the outside, which assisted the other Lucha House Party member. I forget which one was which in this spot here, but landed a tornado DDT to Cesaro on the floor. That looked quite devastating. Shindo did take out Lindsay on the outside, which left Kalisto solo. We did see the King of Swing, of course, into the King Shasa for the win, and of course the champions do retain. I hope this feud is finished. I mean, they have some good matches, and this was fine for a kickoff match, but I feel I've seen enough of this, so hopefully this is the end and we can move on to new programs. Lucha House Party can carry on with their storyline narrative with the breakup that seems to be, almost immediate from now. We go into the main show in a video package with John Cena, a 16-time world champion. Of course, as it's a narration, you couldn't see him, but I thought this was well put together. I really enjoyed it. I thought it felt important. The opening match on the card was a triple threat ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship, and was one of the best ladder matches I've seen in a while. I really enjoyed this. Was given a good length of time. It felt like this was almost like a 13-minute match as well, which was really nice to see. Jeff Hardy, of course, defending against Sami Zayn, of course, who was, the champion who claimed he never got beaten, as well as AJ Styles as well. I thought he was unfairly treated. This was a fantastic match, and it was built around some big spots and great storytelling. And what I found really interesting from sort of the midpoint of the match, Jeff Hardy was taking out AJ Styles on a couple of times in the match, and it really benefited Sami Zayn from doing so as well. I believe he sacrificed himself on a ladder spot at one point to make sure AJ Styles didn't get the championship belt, which really benefited Sami as he went to try and climb and get it. And I think there was another time where he pushed the ladder. Sami landed on his feet, but actually it took out AJ Styles, who was trying to hit the phenomenal forearm. But Zayn didn't help Hardy in any which way. There was no favours done back in return. He was going to try and flip the ladder with Jeff Hardy on it, but Jeff Hardy kind of went over the other side of the ladder, and Sami Zayn still continued to flip it over the top rope, which just looked a devastating spot. Jeff Hardy was in between the hardest part of the ring and the ladder. It just looked nasty as he hit the floor, but a very devastating spot. But Hardy did get his revenge later on. Of course, that famous spot you see, the ladder is put between, of course, the announcer's table as well as the ring apron, and Jeff Hardy gets on another ladder, swanton bomb onto Sami Zayn. This was brutal. It's a spot we've seen a lot in Jeff Hardy ladder matches, but I think because of the fact that it just seemed a bit quieter in the Thunderdome, you really heard the impact of this move here, and I don't know, it just made you really appreciate what Jeff Hardy Hardy puts his body through on almost what it feels like a nightly occurrence. And Jeff Hardy's spots in ladder matches are always just that level above. We get towards near the finish of the match and Sami Zayn seems to come back in, and this is where we really get a twist on that storytelling. Just that smart heel work that Sami Zayn does. The handcuffs come out to play, which is really good. Something that you just didn't see coming. And I mean, he cuffed Jeff Hardy's ear. Of course, Jeff Hardy has these sort of really big ear piercings that's done there, and he put the one part of the handcuff through that and then attached it to a small ladder on the outside. One nitpick from this, Michael Cole could have sold it more, almost like they did with Jeff Hardy with Randy Orton's feud a couple of years ago. I really would have liked to have seen this sort of how more gruesome this actually looked, because it really was A, creative, but B, it was just brutal looking. He went to go and do the same to AJ Styles. He put the handcuff on one hand, but AJ managed to get the upper hand on, to the point that Sami Zayn actually thought, well, hang on, great strategic move here. He actually put his hand in the other part of the handcuff, so it was almost like, well, I'm down, but you're not going anywhere. If I can't win the belt, no one is winning it. Jeff Hardy miraculously manages to get into the ring holding this ladder next to his ear. It's really a sight to behold. He's knocking what looks to be AJ Styles off the ladder here with the other ladder attached to his ear. Sami Zayn at this point actually has a key in his mouth. He actually takes the key out and releases himself from actually the handcuffs at this point and attaches the other part of the handcuffs to the ladder, which AJ Styles is climbing at this point. AJ Styles can go no further up. At this point, Jeff Hardy is taken down. Sami Zayn, as the heel that he is, goes up to there and collects both championship belts, and Sami Zayn is your new Intercontinental Champion, although according to him, no, he is not. He claimed to Carla Braxton after the match that he retained the championship. He's not the new champion. He always was the Intercontinental Champion. So I think this was brilliant. I really enjoyed it. I think it just, even going through some of those spots there online there to you guys there, it just shows what a great match this is. It's one match I really would like to go and rewatch again. I really enjoyed this now. One question I have is, would this match been as long had we not had some of the matches cancelled? I'm not sure. We probably would have had a shorter match here. But what I will say is that I think that this was a nice lengthy ladder match. It was almost like an NXT takeover ladder match, and I think WWE deserves a great call here, because if this was made longer to fill up more time here, I think it was a great call doing so. I think this match really stood out for me. It was a great way to start the night. We knew the 24/7 championship would be involved at some point. R-Truth walking with Little Jimmy into the referee's room, seemed to be there by accident, walks out with the referee kind of going after him and just in some sort of fashion. Drew Gulak is standing behind him. Well, of course, it is the roll-up championship. It's exactly what happens. Drew Gulak, alert, rolls up and becomes the new 24/7 champion. At this point, is the belt changing to SmackDown? Will Drew Gulak maybe end up on Raw in the future? That was the questions that were asked. He held the belt for about an hour, and then, of course, he was saying he was alert on a promo. He got whacked by what seemed to be a tray of some sorts that I think R-Truth was holding earlier in the evening with the 24/7 championship in it. Managed to get the 1, 2, 3. I think I've explained this longer than what these two segments were, but R-Truth is now for the millionth time your 24/7 champion. We had the Raw Women's Championship then as the second official in-ring match of the night. Asuka defending against Zelina Vega. I thought this was a good display from Zelina. I thought she did well in the match. She was working on Asuka's arm, but for me the result was just never in doubt with this match, and probably not enough to make you think that Zelina is that established singles wrestler going forward. I think we need a bit more from Zelina, but of course this match was done with a couple of sequences that seemed to be a couple of roll-ups, which led to Asuka putting in the Asuka lock, got the tap-out victory. After the match, Asuka described Zelina Vega as a firecracker and seemed to show respect. Wanted to do the handshake, which Zelina rejected. Zelina did a bow instead, and as soon as Asuka went to do the same thing to her, of course, then we got the dreaded kick. It just shows that this match is not finished. Asuka went a bit crazy. She didn't really get attacked too much here. Zelina did run off and went and screaming Japanese in the microphone. I expect a rematch or 7 with these two, probably going forward. I reckon that this is probably going to be continuing probably into the next pay-per-view, Hell in a Cell, perhaps, or maybe a rematch on Raw. We'll have to wait and see. But then the show for me was kind of good up to this point, but then I kind of felt for a couple of matches it kind of turned to Sunday Night Raw. We've seen these matches so often, so for me I felt a bit lackluster. Bobby Lashley, the United States Champion, successfully beating a Apollo. Now, Lashley had Shelton Benjamin MVP in his corner. Ricochet was in Apollo's corner. I was surprised there wasn't more outside interference played into the finish. Lashley just won very cleanly with a hurt lock. Apollo tapping out. There was no retribution here either, which was a bit of a question mark. May have added something to this match. I think that was more the main buzz here for this. But I hope this is done. I really don't want to see this anymore. I think that this needs to move on from here. Hopefully, at least one or both of, Apollo or Ricochet will end up on SmackDown when we have the draft, which has been announced, by the way, for October the 9th and 12th. The draft will be coming. I've done a video on it already, 10 superstars that should move in the draft. Go and check that out now. It's got about 600 views. And as well as that, of course, I'll be doing official new predictions, full predictions for the draft as we go towards those shows. So that'll probably be next week to look out for that one. But when the Raw Tag Team Championships are part of Sunday Night Raw as well, the Street Profits against Andrade and Angel Garza. Something different in this match. Well, the ring attire was different from all of these guys. I kind of felt in a way that this was kind of like a carbon copy of other matches we've seen, but Garza and Andrade were on the same page, it seemed throughout. Couple of teases that they wouldn't be when Andrade would look for the tag, but there was a point here where it just had a bit of an unfortunate finish to this match. Garza did a Spanish fly with Montez Ford. I'm not sure if this was here, but it was a kick that was not long afterwards, and you just saw the dreaded sort of sign there that Garza couldn't continue. This clearly wasn't the finish of the match, but Dawkins hit his version of the Sky High, got the pin on Andrade, or we say he got the pin, the ref counted 3, and Johnny actually kicked out at 2. It was a messy finish, and not something you want to see on the pay-per-view, but I understand that they want to look after the talent. If that's not the finish, they need to get out of there. They just need to be clear of their instruction, I think, for this to be the 1, 2, 3. Reports are Street Profits were due to win this match anyway, according to Dave Meltzer, so hopefully this is done, but it was teased we could get another rematch with these two. Not something that I'm overly looking forward to. Next, we had Bayley, who came out to actually address the fact that Nikki Cross wasn't there, sort of gloating that she was going to win anyway, said she had new ring attire. She put an open challenge very quickly, of course, seemed to try and call it off as well, just saying she's continued the SmackDown champion and the rest should come and raise her hand. Asuka came calling, though, before the fact she could leave the ringside area, which gave us a match. I say a match, it was more of an angle, but again, a match we've seen on Raw, a match we've seen actually in SummerSlam as well. So we've seen this match a couple of times. Bayley quickly getting herself disqualified using the chair. Almost the chairwoman, it feels, of WWE. It seems to be her gimmick at the moment going forward. Sasha Banks, though, made the return there, attacked. She was wearing a neck brace. She had a kendo stick as well, attacking with a chair. It was a bit back and forth, this, but Sasha Banks eventually was the one that came out on top of this exchange between the two. Perhaps building towards Hell in a Cell's pay-per-view. I don't see WWE dragging this out, actually, as long as I would like them to. They've done the slow burn to this point. I think it's quite clear they're going to go for a quicker one for these two to have their match. So I expect it to probably be at the next pay-per-view, but maybe the story isn't finished yet. Of course, Sasha Banks is still wearing the neck brace, so it'll actually be interesting to see when she will be cleared to get back into in-ring action. But yeah, this for me was just filler. Next, we went for the WWE Championship, the ambulance match. And at this point, I must admit, once we knew we had a draft coming in a couple of weeks and we knew that this match wasn't going on last, I felt the result was never in doubt. Drew McIntyre retaining over Randy Orton. Now, this match had an interesting SummerSlam match where the finisher was never used. This built up to the pay-per-view with just finishers. I was looking forward to a one-on-one settling the feud. We didn't quite get that, but I must admit I did find this match a lot of fun at the same time. We had a lot of cameos. Randy Orton's Summer of Destruction taking out all the legends getting their revenge. Of course, we had the cameos from Big Show, Christian, Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair all throughout this match. Big Show was the first one when it was in ring. Of course, took Randy Orton out when he was going to go and do the punt and choke somebody through a table. This match went everywhere. It went to the ambulance. I liked that the ambulance was getting destroyed as well. I loved the Claymore spot where he missed Randy Orton and took the door off. I like the fact that the use of the red steel chair with the logo on it, and of course the crutches being taken out as well. Thought there were some nice touches with that. Of course, Randy Orton also later on in the match actually destroying the windscreen as well, trying to go for a pinfall, which was quite interesting. This match sprawled to the back, which is when Christian got involved for the second cameo of the match, taking out Randy Orton here. But Randy Orton still remained dominant in the match. I think this is where the storytelling kind of lost me a little bit, is the fact that it kind of felt like a 5-on-1, but yet Drew couldn't sort of win this match, so it made him look a little bit weaker, in my opinion, in this match. It almost caused that maybe we could get one final match between these two. But as I say, got towards the top of the ambulance, Shawn Michaels actually hit a sweet chin music. I love the fact that Randy didn't sell it either, almost like that Randy, when he had the punt on Shawn Michaels, didn't really sell it either. Shawn had to push him off of the ambulance to sort of get that spot, and I thought it was just fun. It just made me amused watching that. Randy Orton, though, of course, looked like he was going to win the match, but then was hit with a Claymore, and then to finish it off, Drew McIntyre hit the punt kick to settle this match and retain the championship, closing both of the doors of the ambulance. Ric Flair was there to drive the ambulance away. It feels like a lot of people got their revenge here on the show, and it probably is a closed chapter. Although I feel Randy Orton probably feel he's been cheated out of this, and rightly so at this point. So I would like to see Randy, I suppose, go for the belt one more time, just because of the fact that I felt this match and this storyline has been decent to this point. I would have liked to have seen this one-on-one. It'd be interesting if people have been all sorts of cameos. Maybe this is the Hell in a Cell match that we're going to get next month. We'll have to wait and see. But last but not least, we had what I think was definitely, for storytelling purposes, the best match of the night, and rightly so. This was the match that main evented the show. It was the most predictable, but the storytelling, I mean, you got the video package beforehand, just reminded you how good this has been building up with Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, but the families in there and everything they've just done with these two, how they've sort of built this up. I thought it was really, really cool. I like the way when Jey Uso came to the ring, he had the thing around his neck, which was symbolism from his family and from his past, of course, of the Fatu family. I thought that was a really nice touch there. Roman Reigns came out with a new look. He no longer had that sort of, that vest on. It was just more bare-chested, ripped champion. And the new look was promised for the show. And I think that this was a subtle change rather than a big change of ring attire. But I felt that this was suitable for what they did with Roman Reigns. I actually really sort of think that this is the look he should have going forward. The match was fantastic, as I say, as a storytelling purpose here. Jey Uso was just always just, 2 steps behind here, it felt, with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns was dominating the match as expected. And he was always saying a lot of things during the match. He was saying, I don't want to do this to Jey. I love him. He's my family. I don't want to hurt him too much. But it got to the point for Roman Reigns where enough was enough. He said, look, you came here for your payday. You should have laid down. It got to the point that the more and more Jey kicked out and wasn't willing to accept defeat, the more brutal it got and the more angry Roman Reigns got. The fact that he actually as well had a little spell where Jey Uso managed to make a comeback as well. He managed to hit the super kick. He managed to hit the Samoan drop. He managed to hit the Jey Uso splash to the point where we think we're going to get a 1, a 2, and the key moment there where Roman Reigns kicks out and actually hits a low blow at the same time with the way his arm sort of throws his shoulder off the mat, hits that low blow. It just was the moment that the match changed. We saw a spear here, and then at the point you think it's going to be the point where Roman's going to say, right, enough is enough, 1, 2, 3. It wasn't enough for him anymore. It wasn't a case of like, I'm going to be the one that's just going to pin you and beat you and move on. It was a case of, well, actually, I want you to say, I'm the head of the table. He got him to have his face in front of the camera. I want you to tell the family at home, I'm the tribal chief. I am the one who's the head of this family. And Jey Uso, of course, was refusing to do so, to the point that Paul Heyman outside, you're my tribal chief. You are my tribal chief. And Roman says quite directly, I don't want to hear it from you. I want to hear it from him. The brutal attack continues. The referee's trying to get involved to stop it. Roman Reigns gets in the referee's face and says, look, this is my family. I did this to him all my life. You're not going to get involved in this, or you're going to be without a job and I'm going to hurt you. You're going to back off. You're going to let me do my business of what I need to do. Goes back in once again. This calls for Jimmy Uso to come out as he sees this brutal attack coming. He's coming with the towel as well. Wants to throw in the towel. And Roman says, look, come on, I want you to come in and say, I don't want to throw the towel in. I want you to come in and say, I'm the tribal chief as well if you're going to be out here. And the fact that Jey Uso is saying, don't do it. Don't do it. You get that emotional attachment in there, of course, and at this point. I mean, the result is never in doubt. It never was in doubt, but the fact is that Roman Reigns continued to beat down to the point that's where Jimmy was reluctant to throw the towel in because he wanted to be on his brother's side here, on his twin side. In the end, he had to throw the towel in, and the champion, of course, is still Roman Reigns, and it was a brutal, brutal beatdown. Of course, at this point, then we see Jimmy say, look, did you want to hear that you're the tribal chief? Look, you're the tribal chief, all right? Just leave him alone. Why have you got to beat him like that? It was just real emotion. It was almost that point where you just felt it was very MMA. It was very I don't know, it was very gripping. It was a very emotional, invested moment in the pay-per-view, and it was a great way to close the show off, I felt that this was, it sort of left you feeling something. It just made Roman Reigns that much more of a badass. I mean, if he's going to do that to his family, what is he going to do to somebody else? And at that point as well, you don't just think about that. It just is the point that Roman Reigns here just comes off like a megastar. Yes, Jey Uso is probably, you could argue, buried in this situation, but I think he played his role very, very well. He wasn't here to be a future main eventer. He was here to make Roman Reigns look like literally the big thing in wrestling, the main event draw, and I think they got exactly what they wanted from this. And just to finish things off, I mean, Roman Reigns had what was around Jey Uso's neck come into the ring. It just screamed, he's the tribal chief. It's almost, this is my family, my property, I run this, it's my yard. It was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. I think it was the best match of the night purely from emotion, storytelling alone. That and the ladder match really screamed out for me. I really enjoyed both of those. I think they were fantastic. I did enjoy the ambulance match, although I would have gone a different direction with it. A couple of other matches were okay, but I do feel that the middle of this pay-per-view felt very filler. So if I had to give a score overall, I would turn around and say that I think that this pay-per-view is probably a 7 out of 10, maybe a 6.5. It's around that area, mainly for those two matches. Really bumped up the show for me, and the ambulance match I thought was decent as well. The rest of it, I think, knocks it down. I think if we'd had a really good sort of mid-card of this pay-per-view as well, I think we'd have been looking at an 8 or a 9 here, because really, the stuff that was good was brilliant. The other stuff that was filler, unfortunately, was stuff that you could argue, if you haven't seen the show, is probably skippable. But that's all from me anyway. That's my review there of WWE Clash of Champions Gold Rush 2020. Go and check out Ask SCW. Is available on the channel for you now, as well as This Week in Wrestling. More videos coming in the week. NXT TakeOver to look out for that. And of course, tonight and today, keep an eye out for the Raw preview as well. That is coming up very, very shortly on the channel. But that's all from me anyway. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time here on SCW.